Hey, good morning, everyone. I always love the introductions. They're always way beyond what they should be. And this morning, I just want to share around a title, One Person Can Make a Difference. You can make a difference wherever you are, and you're going to see why in a moment. The founder of the Honda motorcycle company many years ago was asked, how did you come about inventing the motorbike? Expecting to hear great strategies, huge investment, massive business plan and a lot of research. He laughed and said, no, it's none of that. He said, I got sick of riding a push bike from one side of the city to the other. I attached a motor to the bike and the rest is history. And here was one person just with a simple idea made a difference. Whether you like motorbikes or not, it made a difference and built a whole industry. And so Alan said to me, why don't you share again, because he's heard it a few times some time ago, the story of your Gloria Jean stuff. I go, well, Alan, I'm sick of it. You may not be. And there's a couple of books over there, that bits of info in there of stories, but I actually want to talk about the journey from advertising right through the Gloria Jean's coffees and beyond. You see, in April I turned 77, but 2 years ago the government sent me a letter and said, we're no longer interested in you. You're no longer up for free bowel screening. Well, they didn't actually say we're not interested in you, but that's how I read it. Obviously, I'm supposed to be dead by that time. Well, I thought, well, that's okay, we move on. Then March the following year, I get this letter from Services New South Wales saying, your licence is being cancelled as of May 1st, unless you go and have your doctor fill in a 4-page form online to say you're suitable for driving. I thought to myself is I could send them an email listing a whole lot of people they should cancel the licence. Anyway, we got through that, and that now happens every March. I have this expectation of letters arriving to say you can't drive again from 1st of May unless you do this. But I'm still driving. So I left school at 14. The only leaving, it was a leaving certificate back then. Many of you won't even know what I'm talking about. You went to year 9 and year 11. Year 11 was leaving. I did the leaving in year 9. And I got this junior job at an advertising agency. For 6 months, I didn't even know it was an advertising agency. I was happy to have a job because I grew up in a family. It was very subsistence. You get by and pay bills. Was the whole view. And I got there, worked in this advertising agency and left it about 30 years later. And through that time, the last 2 years, I was managing director. And I never planned it. Every time I got promoted, I was surprised and didn't know why they wanted to do that and waste a whole lot of life, theirs and mine. And because it was all get by mentality. But through this whole time, God was working and getting me ready for a whole lot of stuff I didn't even realise. And so he took someone who didn't really know a lot and couldn't care, because I thought school was all about sport and PE. Till the teacher pointed out, you do have to do some English and maths. And I was disappointed. And I thought 50 was a pass mark and that's what you achieve and you leave, because there wasn't any expectations set. But over the years, God was starting to birth, because in those days, there's nothing about building business plans and having vision or anything. And it certainly wasn't in the church I was in. It was more about heading towards retirement age, as soon as you can, was the view there. And that's all I knew, but I started to realise as we grew and God started to speak into our lives that something else was happening. So in 1993, we get home from holidays from Sawtell near Coffs Harbour, and the chairman calls me in. It's now a big agency with 200 people in Sydney, and he says the managing director is moving to America to take over Dallas Fort Worth office. And the working directors want you to be managing director. I said, I don't think so. It wasn't on my plan. I wasn't thinking about it. I didn't see that was my job. You're at the top end, so that's where the buck stops. Where I was just below it, so I could always push stuff up and down as it was then, but here's the job. And so I said to him, look, I've got to go home and pray about it. He had no idea what I was talking about, but that was my default position to get out of the room. Which he let me go. So I got home and said to Sue, look, this is what managing director. They said you should take it. I said, it's the wrong answer. And then I rang our to, I see pastor in Hillsong at the time, Mike Murphy, and he said, you should take it. I said, it's the wrong answer. Anyway, overnight, God worked on me. In the morning, I'm driving the hour and a half from where we live to North Sydney, and I was going in to say, yes, I'll take the job. And about halfway in, I decided, well, we're going to set a path, a plan, and we're going to take this agency forward. Had no idea what I was talking about, but we eventually got together, the key directors, a workshop with a moderator, built a plan, a vision around an agency. And when you look back the 2 years I was in that role, the agency, through everyone who worked there at the time, built a phenomenal agency that won every piece of business, highly profitable, never been like that before. And in mid-1995, our Connect Group leaders said to us, do you want us to do something different? I always knew God had something else in mind, and I'm well-paid job, and here I am ready to give all that up and being paid to start something else called Gloria Jeans Coffees. He said, I've been offered this concept called Gloria Jeans. I said, I don't know a lot about fashion, as you can tell. He said, no, it's coffee. And so we went to America, negotiated the rights on what was a flawed scheme. We didn't know there the way they were doing it as a gift store. We came, launched in Australia, struggled for the first couple of years, but eventually built up to nearly 1,000 stores worldwide. Because in 2005, we bought the rights off the Americans for the world. Now that all was in a snapshot of all that happened. But about towards the end of this time, when we sold out in 2014, I sensed God was saying, you're not just drifting off of the horizon. You're going to now help people who, through the problems and mistakes you made and the things you've learned and the growth, you're going to help other people. Because then I learned that there's no such thing as retirement. That's when you die. It's retirement. God's not finished with you till you're dead. And I've got a few nods, so the rest of you don't believe it yet. So God has the plan, and we are on mission. That's what we are. We've got to remember we are on mission. We're called to business to make a difference. Too many of us have got in business or in business, and we just want to get by and pay bills. We just don't want to rock the boat. Yes, we're here to rock the boat. We're here to shake. John Wickham over there, who I use to help people, I throw him into the ring sometimes with people because he will really rock a business's boat to what is the possibilities. God gives him a word, for those businesses. One of the first presidents of Alpha Crucis College, which is working to become a uni, as we've just heard, the guy whose name was James Wallace, and he said, let me read it, even now our vision has not gone far enough. Upward, inward, downward and outward, ever outward to the regions and beyond. God will match it with miracle, power with power, wisdom with wisdom, force with force, and we can win. How's that for a statement? Yeah. If you want to hear it again, get the video. But onwards and upwards through this whole thing, as you're going to see in a moment. So are you getting inspired or challenged? Are you up for it? Yeah. Even in politics, are you up for it? In business, are you up for it? I know you work for someone. Are you up for it? In our families, in our churches, are we up to what God wants to do? In Isaiah chapter 48, verses 9 and 10, in the Message, it says, I have a lot more to tell you, things you never knew existed. It isn't a variation on the same old thing. This is new, brand new, something you'd never guess or dream up. When you hear this, you won't be able to say, I knew it all along. And when I finished working day to day, I was having quiet times. I used to start having them in the afternoon when it was a bit quieter. It's not anymore. I usually, get the Bible out and close my eyes, and about half an hour later I wake up from sleep. So I got guilty until I realised when I woke up, things were coming to mind, and I realised God was speaking to me about things, about solutions, strategies and stuff, things I never would have thought up. And, there we go. You need an idea or a strategy? Ask. God says ask. He says, ask and I'll give the nations to you. I used to pray the Jabez prayer every morning, not realising, expand my territory, and suddenly we're now taking over Gloria Jeans Coffees around the world. I wasn't on our plan, but, God answers prayers if you start asking. It may not come on our timeline, but he starts working us and getting us ready for it. And then the last one here is Isaiah 43:19. He says, I'm about to do something brand new. Don't you see it? I'll make roads in the wilderness and streams in the desert. Are you ready for something or your business to be shaken up, for your church to be shaken up? We need shaking up right across every strata of society, and we need and we will be part of that story. So there we go. There's a bit of introduction. Now let me give you excuse me, a few of the people through the Bible where God took from obscurity and did great things through. The first one was Noah. In Genesis chapter 6 onwards, he said, and here's one person, Noah, who made a difference. He was one person who saved his family. He was one person who saved mankind. Now, he was around 500 to 600 years old when God called him to build a boat. You've got to understand, he's in a desert. He doesn't know what a boat is. He doesn't even know what water is, a lake. And God says, build a boat. He gave him the instructions. He went and did it. You see, he was obedient even when it looked strange. I know God's birthing things in you. He has been, and they sound strange. Are you ready to pick it up and run with it and see where it goes? I never thought we would have 1,000 stores in 39 countries. When we negotiated the rights, we negotiated for 25 stores over a 10-year period in Australia. Even then it sounded like a mountain, but they wanted 75. We managed to get them down to 25 because 10 years is a long time. Americans are terrible coming out and checking on you anyway. I knew that from McDonald's. So you get away with a lot, and it wouldn't matter when 10 years came. But we went on and to have nearly 500 stores in Australia when we sold the business to someone who thought they were visionary. But if you ever want to turn a big business into a small business, give it to a small thinker, and it will happen. And at least Alan got that. But there's a great verse in 2 Chronicles chapter 16 verse 9 again in the Message, and it says, God is always on the alert, constantly on the lookout for people who are totally committed to him. Are you committed to him and what he wants to do through your business? Well, mine's just a small business. I'm just killing pests, as someone around here over there said. I'm just killing pests. Well, that's a good thing. You need pests killed. But who knows what you can do through that. It's interesting, John, he has a spring water business, so they put on their bottles, never thirst again. Not a Bible reference. I don't know how many people ask them, what does that mean? Or what's that there for? Just doing something like that has opened the doors to talk to a lot of people about a whole lot of people. They're on a journey and able to use that business. So Noah wasn't afraid to stand out from the crowd. And God said to Noah, whenever you see a rainbow, remember, I'll never flood the total earth again at one time. Well, I want to challenge you, next time you see a rainbow, no, you don't think of that other thing. Next time you see a rainbow, remember one person can make a difference. I love visual things that will remind us. I've seen a few rainbows recently and reminded me that one person can make a difference. The second person I want to look at is Esther in the whole book. You can look at it. But here's Esther, very young. Her parents died. Her cousin Mordecai looks after her. She grows up to be a beautiful woman as she's described. And she gets selected, shouldn't be, but she gets selected to go into the king's palace with other young women. Eventually one will get selected as the queen. And she felt out of place because she was in a strange location, not what she was used to with her own people. But understand, no place is out of place when you're in God's place. There's going to be times when you're going to be in a situation. Understand, God's put you there for a reason. And then Mordecai got the news that her nation was going to be wiped out through the wicked Haman. And he says to her, you're going to have to go to the king. She said, if I go and I'm not announced and he doesn't hold the scepter out, then my head gets cut off. He says, maybe you were born for such a day as this. You are born for such a day as this. One of the disappointing things that happened when COVID started, I had people ringing ministries saying, we're just going to put our heads down, but we need money because our giving is down. We'll put our heads down. I said, I don't think you understand. I'm the wrong person to ring. Look, you don't understand. You were born for such a day as this. This is when we should rise to the top. We're going to help people. We're going to guide people. We're going to take people through this. Some woke up. That's what they were here for. Others still kept their heads down, and I think they're still down the rabbit hole. Haven't come out yet. No. Sorry. I do offend people occasionally. But no place is out of place when you're in God's place, and maybe you were born for such a day as this. And finally, in her story, Mordecai says, you've got to go there, otherwise you and your people are going to be wiped out. She said, if I go and the king doesn't accept me and I lose my head, she says, so be it. And her words were, if I perish, I perish. So she was going to do and be obedient no matter what the cost was. Are you up for it in your business, in your career? Got a few nods there. We're getting there. Maybe by the end we'll have a lot of nods. Now we get to Rebecca. What a great lesson in customer service. Rebecca in Genesis 24, here's Abraham's about to die, and he sends his senior servant for a wife for Isaac. And as he gets to the well, he says, the first woman that comes out, and I say, can you get a drink for me? And she says, I'll get it for you and for your camels also. I'll know she's the one. So Rebecca comes out. She doesn't know she's going to be rewarded with fine jewellery, clothes, and become a leader in the nation. So she comes out and the servant says, will you get me a drink? She said, I'll get it for you and for your camels also. Now, I don't know whether you're aware, there were 10 camels and they each drink 170 to 180 litres of water each. She just created a half day's job for herself. So her heart was to do what's required in those days, do what's required, and then some. Now, in businesses and churches, we've got to learn to do what's required and then some. I'm just so discouraged that since COVID, that customer service, customer helping in business and retail has plummeted. No one's interested. Well, there's a few are, but man, trying to get service or help. If someone, when I ring up and says we're really busy at the moment to be able to do that, I'm going to scream. I hope you're busy. I'm willing to fit in with people. We've got to learn, what are we saying to people? What message are we sending? Are we doing what's required and then some? And, okay, your business might be struggling for a while and we don't have a lot of money to be able to help people and do things and have a heart for it. Let me give you 10 things you can give when you've got no money. Give a smile. Give out good thoughts. Give a kind word. Be cheerful. Give appreciation. Give encouragement. Give honour. Give of your time. Give hope. And give prayer. Pray for people. There's a whole lot of things there that won't cost you anything that you can do. And it's interesting when you start with some of these, how your attitude, your personality, your whole persona changes when you deal with people. Sometimes we're so miserable and critical of the government, and that's good to be critical. Businesses, critical. I won't be able to go and sit at the table again then. Of everyone, we can be critical of everyone, but in the end, let's start looking at how we view things today, because what message are we sending people? The next one is Abraham in Genesis 11 onwards. And God said to him, there's a challenge for you in business and life and family and church and government. God said, come outside, look up. Stars. There's your vision. That's pretty big. And that's how many your descendants are going to be. And I'm sure Abraham looked at Sarai, who was still described as looking good, but at whatever age she was, pretty old by that stage, and looks at her and said, I don't think so. We're not going to be able to do that many kids. But God wasn't thinking then and there. He was thinking generations and onwards from there. We all became, over all the years, descendants of Abraham. And what are we doing to encourage, build, challenge the next generations? Our church has started a young adults program. We started a young academy to start training people up. They may not be full-time ministry, but changing them in a whole different way to think, in their lives and as they outwork everything they do. What are we doing, for the next generation? You see, Abraham was 75 when God calls him out. You see, age is a mind over matter. If you don't mind, it doesn't matter. And many of us do matter. We think about, what can I do to retirement? Well, as I said, you move on to a different thing. You may not work the way you did, but God has a reason and a plan for you, and it's productive and it's fruitful and it can make a difference. And God's not finished with you, as I said, until you're dead. Isaiah 55:8 says, God says, my thoughts are not your thoughts. My ways and not your ways. So start opening up and thinking the way God thinks. You can impact the generations. And I remember our board for one of our trusts said to me, as you get older, and I said, thank you for that, how are you going to replicate yourself out to other people? Replicate other leaders to do what you're doing. So that challenged us to think about a girl who works for us, a very creative thinker. She said, this goes back a few years, why don't you start a YouTube channel? I said, what's that? I didn't know you could have one yourself. Well, now we've got over 200 videos on it, short videos to help business people. And also then God said, start a series connecting life and business to each book of the Bible. So I started in Genesis, just finishing posting the last one on Job. So there's nearly 100 videos just on connecting each book of the Bible. Now up to Job, I've just recorded starting Psalm. They're going to be 25 short snippets out of the book of Psalms because there's so much in there related to us and life and business. And then they said, will you help John Sycamore? So we started Business on Purpose, where we're helping Christian business people run a program for 12 months to help them get their businesses sorted out because they want kingdom businesses. And some of them want to be able to give, so we work out how they can do that. When they're not making money, it's a bit hard. Or when they've got terrible people, how do you manage people? There's a whole lot of things that come up in this process. So there's a whole range of these things. So then I became marketplace pastor at our church. It's not like, how are you going? Can I pray for you? It is, okay, what's the issue you've got in your business? Let's get some help for you to manage this so the businesses in our churches start to survive, thrive. And from there, they then say, one of the businesses came and said, we want to fund a new kids worker because our kids ministry has exploded and we need another full-time person. They said they will fund it. We didn't ask them to, but that's the sort of attitude that starts to come out when that's what God wanted to replicate in people. And I didn't get it, but sooner or later I did, I guess. The next one is Joseph. We probably know the story of Joseph. And here's a guy whose life doesn't go to the plan. He has dreams when he's young that his brothers are going to bow down to him, and then he has another dream that his parents are going to bow down. That's great. I'm not sure I'd share it with them because it didn't go down well. And eventually, he's thrown into a pit, sold into slavery in Egypt. He gets into the second in charge's palace, and then his wife tries to seduce him. He takes off, gets accused, thrown in prison. He's there. He rises up to be the head guy in the prison, and then eventually the chief Pharaoh, wine tester and baker gets thrown in prison. They have dreams no one can interpret. Joseph interprets them. Eventually, Pharaoh hears about it. He comes out, and eventually, some years after, through 7 years of famine and 7 years of growth, he stores up this grain. He's put second in charge in the whole nation. And eventually his brothers have to come because they've got no food, and they come, what do? Bow down to him, which was the first dream, that his brothers would bow down. Man, that took a few years, but God's birthed it in you. Have you given up? It's going to take twists and turns. When we started Gloria Jeans, God gave us a vision. We wanted to fund kingdom things. Well, talk about putting a bullseye on you for problems. As soon as you want to do something like that, the enemy doesn't like it. And, we were attacked, we were sued, we were criticised, the media, everything, But the interesting thing, while everyone was criticising doing that, business was going like that. Because God had the plan. And, we had to deal with all those things and bring the right people to help deal with them, but it was moving forward. So Joseph had good and bad days, but dreams are conceived long before they become a reality. I remember seeing a video of Walt Disney walking through paspalum type grass in California, measuring out by steps where Disneyland's going to be. And look at the vision that then unfolded after that. We had a fire in 2002 that burnt the whole warehouse and roasting plant to the ground with 92 stores open. If you want your vision to go up in flames, well, you have a fire with nothing. And I'm standing there at 2 a.m. in the morning going, God, you got the plan. Because by this stage, I'd started to learn what he births, he's going to make happen. And it's only because Sue kept reminding me from previous times when we started, it wasn't going well. And I said, that's it, it's all over. She said, what you don't understand, what God's birth, he's going to make happen. So being an obedient husband, I took that on board and remembered it. And I'm standing there. But that was the catapult to take us to 39 countries around the world and nearly 1,000 stores. What we had was not going to do it. And through a whole lot of processes and stories that no time now to share, God had, the dream was conceived, but God had the plan, and it may not have taken the journeys that we wanted. And don't give up, even if your family and friends think you're stupid. If you believe God's birthed this, and you've got to stay with it and work it out, and unfortunately be patient. And don't give up if it's taking time. You see, God wasn't at work producing the circumstances Joseph wanted. He was at work in the bad circumstances producing the Joseph that he wanted. And through all that, he was getting Joseph ready for what was going to happen. So he was one person, Joseph, who made a difference, saved his nation from starvation. Eventually, he didn't know that was the plan when he got that dream. And then we get to Moses in Exodus. And God says, I want you to go back to Egypt and free my people. He goes, who, me? I've said that a lot of times. Who, me? Why me? There's a lot of other more educated people who don't want the educated people. They get in the way. Sorry, if you're educated, that's fine. That was in my situation. But Moses overcame the obstacles, or the comforts, if you like, of his present situation to go back to Egypt. You see, he was out in the desert, and he was comfortable. It's interesting where you can get comfortable when you don't want to do something. I couldn't see the desert being all that comfortable, but he was comfortable there because he was far away from Egypt as he could be. But God said, no, I want you to come back, and away you go. And he had to leave the safe zone. So you're going to have to leave the safe zone if you want to grow and make an impact in your community, the people you connect with every day, in society, in your church, through your church, your business, your career, and everything. And in the end, you know, Moses was 120 when he died, and it says his eye was not dim, nor his natural vigour gone. So how would you be like that, to be like that at 120, firing on all cylinders? There's a few more nights. We're really getting there, Alan. They're very slow today, not just the early start, you know. And then we finish with David. Oh, there's a lot more, but we'll just finish with David in 1 Samuel. See, it came the time where God said to Samuel, we want to appoint another king. Saul has failed. And I'd much rather God use me than find someone else to do it, because I didn't do it. So he goes to Jesse's household, which is the one God nominated. And Jesse has 8 sons, but there are only 7 in the room. The first one comes and he's sort of built like a brick. And Samuel said, this is the man. And God says, no, he's not. I don't look on the outward appearance, I look on the heart. That's what God's interested in. So they went through all the 7 sons, and Samuel said, it's none of these. Surely you've got to have another one. And Jesse goes, oh, yeah, we got a skinny, scrawny, red-headed one out looking after the sheep. Samuel says, we're not sitting down until you go and get him. As he comes into the room, Samuel goes, he's the one. See, what no one understood was God was preparing David out there, killing lions, bears, and wolves, and looking after the sheep. He wasn't allowed to lose any sheep. So he was out there looking up. God was preparing him out there for the moment when he was going to face Goliath and eventually lead a nation, had to defeat the enemies. And David had to overcome limitations his own father and family had put on him. And I'm sure people are putting limitations on you and your business and the opportunity. You will never amount to anything. This is not going to happen. You're too small. You have no authority. Trust me, when God gives you authority, the thing will move if you want that to happen. And we can rise above our limitations, and we can help others through that. So be encouraged. David was one person. And in the end, even though he made mistakes, we all do, right at the end of his life, God said, David is a man after my own heart. Now that encourages me, because the mistakes I make, there's a chance for me that God be a man after God's own heart. So you can make a difference in your business, in your school, in your church, in the community, in your ministry, and don't we need it today? You've only got to talk with people and hear people talking. We need to make a difference. We need to shine as lights. Not Bible bash them. We need to shine as lights and show a different way of working with people. You see, we haven't seen the best ideas, the best strategies. We haven't seen the best pastors, the best youth leaders. We haven't seen the best politicians. You've got a great chance now. Haven't seen the best programs, Phil. on, Vision, or 96.5 over there too. We haven't seen the best selling strategies. We haven't seen the best videos. We haven't seen the best things, because God's going to bring some of those out of this room. Are you up for it? Do you want to be that? And don't we need it today? It only takes a spark to get a fire going. So become a fire lighter and not a fire extinguisher. Don't be the person that's always putting the fire out in young people, putting the fire out, in our politicians, putting the fire out in our pastors, putting the fire out, through criticism, through this can't be done. Everything can be done. Get rid of the ceiling mentality and let God blow the ceiling off because that's what he wants to do, and get us to think way down down the end, because it only takes a spark to get the fire going. And, when I saw something burn everything to the ground, that was the spark that actually catapulted us to a whole bigger business, a whole bigger opportunity. If we weren't known in Australia, we were through the fire. What a great marketing campaign. I actually said to our marketing guy, I said, what a great marketing strategy, but don't ever do that again. So let me just pray for you. We just thank you, Father, that you've called each one of us out today to be your people. And we just pray, take us, Lord, fire, put the fire back in us, or take the fire and fuel it, Lord, to go out to our jobs, to our people, to be an encourager, to be a supporter, to build them up, to look at being an influence in the right way, right across our families and community and wherever we go. In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen.
Now, I mentioned over on the table, I've mentioned there's a form there if you want to take it. It's up to you. It tells you where to go for the YouTube channel. They're free videos. There's, as I said, over 200 of them. It's growing all the time. Stuff that helps in marketing, business planning, how to review staff, etc. But also then the Bible series is attached to that, and some of my leadership favourite stuff. So that's always there. We've got a few resources over there. And then a couple of years, or just before actually COVID, we actually did a workshop for 2 days with 30 odd Christian business people at different stages, how to write vision, mission, values, get your core idea, your unique selling proposition, sales, customer service, a whole lot of stuff. And it's all on a whole package with workbook and 12 videos there. I just reduced the price. I just want to get it into people's hands. If you're a church, then the stuff there is available for free for you. We don't want pastors to pay. We just want to fire them up. Correct?
Yeah.
Yep, no, I've got 3 more yeses, Alan. Thank you. You want a good question?
Yeah. You've had a round of applause, everybody. Thank you. Awesome. Couple of things I just took there, like, are you up for it? Are you up for it? Are you ready to go? Are you up for it? You've lit a fire, you've lit a spark for us today. Thank you, Peter. Overcoming those limitations, leaving the comfort zone. I've got a key question that was rolling through my head. You didn't necessarily talk about process, but all that experience, all those different people with their different stages of their life cycle, the different limitations, is there one or two key moments or pivot points that you can help us consider if I'm at a sort of the tail end of my business and it's languishing, if I'm starting and I haven't got any resources, if I'm kind of midway through this journey and I can't really see the forest from the trees, there is sort of a pivotal key thing that you'd recommend?
Well, I guess here's the 2 questions I ask everyone is, where do you want to be, or where do you believe God wants you to be in 3 years? I know you want maybe longer, but we can't often think that far ahead. And you say, I want to sell my business. Well, it's exactly the same as building it. What people do is take their eyes off it, the value dies. You need to be doing the same things to build your business as if you want to sell it. So the same question is valid. The second question is, what are the barriers to achieving where you want to be? People, money, I don't have ideas, etc. Write them down, and then you develop what I call action. Some of it comes out in the material. An action. What do I need to do? Who's going to do it by when? Those 3 columns are really important. Is number 1, people write business plans, they don't do actions or actionable actions. What needs doing, who's going to do it, and you don't have to do it all, find other people who could, and by when. You set deadlines on these things and you start to see progress heading towards a direction. The other thing I'd encourage you to do is find someone who's going to speak, challenge you. I often, say, get an executive advisory group, you can call them what you like, that one or two people that you can regularly meet with to challenge you, not just build you up and say, this is all terrific, keep going, but you need to think about that. Let me introduce you to this person who can help you on this stage of the journey. You need the challenges at different points. Is that helpful?
Awesome, but very helpful. 3-year vision, actionable plan, and advisory group. Who's actually going to kind of not just glad hand you and go there, but who's actually going to kind of ask you some tough questions. Time for 1 or 2 more quick questions. I think you've done an amazing job. Thank you for your generosity, but please give them a round of applause for coming to the time. Sue, thank you so much. Great stories.